Our webinar today, Organizing Content and Tracking Progress with Quizlet. As a reminder, this event is great for teachers newer to the Quizlet platform or teachers who have already been using Quizlet but are looking to incorporate it more into their classroom. We'll be going over how to create and use classes, what class progress is, and what it has to offer. Okay, so it's 3:02. Let's go ahead and get started. Really quickly, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Amalia, and I work on initiatives to help support our growing teacher community. Olivia, our user operations manager, is also here today and will be helping with the presentation and our Q&A session. She's the expert, so really happy she could join us. And then next, a quick agenda. We'll start by reviewing some key terms so everyone just knows what we're talking about. We're on the same page. Then we'll dive into Quizlet classes, how to add sets and students, and additional options that we have with classes. Then next, we'll focus on class progress, which is a feature of our paid Quizlet Teacher upgrade, what those dashboards will look like, and how teachers find this feature helpful. We'll briefly review what else is included in the upgrade, then we'll finish with a round of Q&A. So as we're going throughout the presentation, make sure to enter your questions into the question box on your webinar tools. And we will try to get through as many as we can, and we'll make sure to follow up with you individually by email if we don't cover yours in this session. We're also going to aim to end the session around 3:45, so 40 minutes. And please note that there will be a short survey at the end. So thanks in advance for completing that. Really helps us, figure out the best way to do webinars. Okay, so some key terms that we'll be talking about today: a study set. So this is basically the collection of terms and definitions or questions and answers that you're inputting into Quizlet. You can kind of think of that like your digital flashcard deck. The set page. So this is the main page of the set where all editing features and study modes live. When your students go to the set page, this is where they go to actually study your set. And we'll find all of the icons for the study modes. Your profile page. So this is where you and others can view all the sets, folders, and classes you've created and see your study activity. So if your students have Quizlet accounts, they will also have a profile page, and you can view their content and the sets they've studied there. And then finally, a class page. This is the main page for your group of curated sets and class members. Here you can add sets, invite and manage members of your classes, and students can easily access your material from this page. Okay, so let's talk about Quizlet classes. What are they? Essentially, a class on Quizlet is a curated group of your sets, ones you've either created or found on Quizlet, created by others, for a particular group of students. So classes are a great way to organize your material on Quizlet, and you can also add your students as members, which means they always know where to find relevant content. You can use your Quizlet classes from year to year, removing sets or adding more as you create them or find them. You can also remove students and invite your new students each year. With a free Quizlet account, you can create up to 8 classes, which is generally enough for most people. If you have an upgraded Quizlet Teacher account, you can create unlimited classes. So now, what do teachers like about using classes? Teachers often mention the fact that classes give their students easy access to the right material. Students don't have to search for it, and it cuts down on confusion. Students also often feel more involved with the platform and motivated to use the material when they have that sort of access to it and belong to a class group. As for organization, teachers can differentiate classes by age, level, and subjects, or even use them for one-on-one assignments. Another great aspect is notifications. So when a new set is added to a class, Quizlet sends all class members an email. So assigning a new set to study for homework, for example, is really easy. Additionally, you can add your material all at once for the year or add it over time. It's really up to you. Then the students can review past material throughout the unit and for their final or cumulative exam, something like that. Classes also enable more collaboration with students. For example, if you want them to be the ones creating content and sharing it with their classmates, or make maybe copies of your class sets, like a study guide to modify and customize and provide their own answers for, classes enable that. Classes also give an option for privacy in case you want to share your material with only certain students or groups. And they also help with a flipped classroom approach. Students always know where to find their material and can study without your supervision. And then finally, some teachers actually use classes to share content with other teachers at their school, their department, that sort of thing. So let's start by talking about creating a class, which is super easy. If you haven't already, the first step is to sign up for a free Quizlet account, which you can do on Quizlet.com. And then once you're logged in, go ahead and look for your sidebar, and you can choose the Create a Class option. And basically when you do that, it will prompt you to enter a class name. It's really good to be specific and have a system for this, course, teacher name, etc. You can also add a description, which you can use to provide more information about your class, or maybe even instructions and assignments. And then add your school name. Once you've added or selected this once, we'll remember it for future classes that you create after that as well. And then click Create Class. So now we're going to go ahead and do a quick demo for what you can do with classes, which is essentially adding sets to your class, adding students to your class, and a few more options that I've previously mentioned. So one second, we're just going to go ahead and change screens here. So as you can see here, I have a teacher account opened on the left-hand side of the screen, Ms. Nelson, and on the right-hand side, I have a demo student account so that we can kind of see what's going on from the student's view. So first, on the teacher view, you can see that I have a few classes right down here in my sidebar. I'm getting music, French 1, period 2, etc. And I've highlighted this. I'm in this class. I'm viewing the material that is in this class. So let's talk about adding sets first. If you've already created sets on Quizlet, adding sets to your class is really, really easy. You just go to the upper right and click Add Sets. And you can see that all of your created sets will show up in this feed. You can easily add them, remove them. You can even allow the class to edit, which I will talk about at a later point. If you've studied sets, you can also add them that way, or if folder sets. But generally, if you already have content on your account, this is how you would add a set to your class. So that's super easy. And now let's say you're looking for content, you found other content you want to add to your class. So let's look for French food. Great, so some really good results here. And I can take a quick preview of these sets. I think I like this one. Awesome, that looks great. So to add this, you can see our toolbar up here under the title, the set title. There's a similar little plus icon. Click Add, and I can find my class in this list and then add it that way. So that's super, super simple. Adding a set is really easy. Now let's talk about inviting members. So actually, if I refresh the page, I can see that this set is now in my class. And so there's a quick link to my class again. You can see it shows up in this feed here. Okay, so if I want to invite students to my class, there's actually three kind of main ways to do this, and we'll just kind of walk you through a couple of them. So again, we're on the class page, and in my toolbar at the upper right, you can see this option to add members. So I'm going to click on that. A modal will appear, and you'll see a few different ways. So I think my favorite way, and the way that most people use, is an automatic join link. So if I click into that, I can see there's this unique code that I can easily copy. And so now let's go to the student view. If I'm a student and my teacher has shared this link with me either via an LMS, Edmodo, or emailed it to me, or even written it on the board and had me type it in, I can easily go to that class. All right, so now I'm on the class page, and I'll see this option to join the class. I select that, and there I am. I'm in the class. I'm now a member in this class, which is great. So that's the easiest way to do it, but there's a few other options. So let's say as a teacher, I have an email list. I have a CSV with all of my student emails. I can easily copy and paste those into this text box, and that will send individual email invites to everyone on that list. And they would follow that link to kind of do the same thing that we did with the join link. They'll go to the class, they'll click join, and they're a member of the class. So that's super easy. This system also works with Google Classroom. So if you're a teacher that integrates with Google Classroom, you can invite your students with bulk emails that way as well. And then finally, the last thing that Teachers often say they do, especially if they have older students or don't want to take the time to send an invite. They trust their students to find their class and request to join. That's an option as well. So going back to the student view, if I'm a student, I'm logged into my account, I can easily click on Join or Create a Class. And then if I know the name of my teacher's class, Miss Nelson Music, let's see what comes up. All right, so the results, top of the results, I can go into this class. I can request to join the class. And you can see that it kind of appears grayed out. And that's how I know I've requested to join this class. I'm just waiting to be accepted as a member of the class. So now if I go back to the teacher screen and I click into that class of mine, I'll go to the Members tab and I'll see that I have one request to join this class. And then I will accept it here. So now back to the Students tab. If I refresh the page, I can see that I am now a member of this class and have access to all the content. There isn't any content yet, but I have access to it when it's there. So those are the three main ways to add students. Okay, and now let's talk about extra class options. So let's say I actually want my content in this class to be private to just my students. Classes enable a separate privacy setting that allows this to happen. So if I go into one of my sets that I've added to the class or I've created, let's see, I'll just go into this one. I can click into it. And you can do this when you're creating a set as well, but because this is already created, I'm just going to go ahead and edit it. But on the Create/Edit Set page, you'll see these options on the upper right, and it says, right now it says visible to certain classes, but let's say it was set to everyone. I would just go back into here, I'd select the option for certain classes, and then I'd select the class or classes that I wanted to add it to. And again, this means that my set is no longer public. It's only visible to class members in the classes I've selected here. So that's super easy to do. I will save my set. And now if I go back to my class page, you can see to the right of the title that has this little lock icon. And then you know for sure this set is private. Only class members will see this. So that's really helpful. Okay, so another option for classes is allowing students to actually add sets and invite new members. And this might be helpful if you have, students that you want to collaborate or be more involved in the set creation process, if you're asking them to create their own sets and then share them with other students in your class. Or let's say you're uploading or you're creating a set that's a study guide. It has questions and then blank answers, and you want students to make a copy of that set to provide their own answers and then add it back into the class, that sort of thing. So it's really easy to do this as well. You're back on your class page, you go to More Options on the upper right, you choose Edit, and then you'll see below the title and description, you have this option to allow your students to add study sets and new members. So if I unselect that, that means that they can't do that. I'm the only person who can add content to this class and invite students to this class. If I select this box, they can help me with those processes. So that can be really helpful as well. So let's go ahead and save that. And then finally, setting notification preferences. So something that teachers have mentioned is helpful is actually the fact that Quizlet by default will send an email as you add new sets to your class, which notifies students they have something to study or look at. So to make sure that this is in place, you can actually, again, go to More. You can have your students go to Notifications, and this takes you to your settings page in your notifications area where you can actually choose which classes you want notifications from. So for example, if I am a student and I only really want notifications from that one class, I can keep that, I can save, and there we go. I can go back to the class. So again, that's super easy. Again, by default, students will have notifications turned on, and it's worth noting that notifications is an individual account sort of thing. It's not something that a teacher can send universally for every member of the class. So if you feel like your students aren't getting it, Your notifications, make sure they have that option turned on. Okay, great. So I think we're going to go back to the presentation now. Just 1 second while we change the presenter again. Okay, so just to quickly review what we talked about adding students to a class, it's really easy. There's 3 different ways, whatever suits you best. And to get started with those, go ahead to the class page and click on the Add Members button. So next, if you want to make your sets private to just your students in the class, this again is also super easy. You would just click into the set, edit it, and choose certain classes and select your class. You can change this at any time. You can select multiple classes. You can do this as you're creating content as well. If you're using sets that you've found on Quizlet that are created by other people, what you'll need to do is actually just make a copy of those sets. And then on that copy, you can adjust the privacy setting. Okay, and then of course, if you'd like your students to add sets and invite members, that is an option under More and Edit. And again, you can change this at any time. And if you want your students to be notified every time you add a new set to the class, make sure that they have that option turned on in their settings. Okay, so now let's move on to class progress. Like I mentioned before, class progress is our study data dashboard feature that comes with the Quizlet Teacher upgrade. With class progress, you'll be able to view individual study activity, recent high scores, and group study progress. You can access class progress easily from each set page or from your class page. There's actually a great quick link from your class. So if there's any class progress activity on the set, that link will appear next to the set title in your class feed. As your class members study your set, more class progress data will be filled in and you'll get more use out of the tool. Once you click on that link to class progress, you'll be taken to a view of your class members by row and their study activity on this set. You can filter by class if your set is in multiple classes, and also by time period. If a study mode icon is filled in, that means they started the activity but didn't finish it. And if there is a green check mark next to it, it means they finished the activity, they completed that mode. It's also worth noting that this view doesn't show number of attempts at an activity in a certain mode or length of a study session, but it's still really helpful. So also in this same view, you can see best scores in the time period you've selected. This info shows for test mode, match, and gravity. In this example, you can see that student 2 last finished test a couple of minutes ago, and their highest score from all of their attempts on test mode was 80%. So from that previous page that we were just looking at, there's a quick link to go back to the set page, and on the set page, you have the option to view the terms and definitions by group progress. So I can further filter this by all students or particular classes of mine and a time period. And this view shows most missed to least missed terms by that group of students. So that's also really helpful. So how do teachers use class progress? Now that we've seen what it offers, how can you actually apply this? Well, first of all, you can use it as often as you like, daily to get a sense of how students are completing their homework, or if they're completing it at all, weekly to see who prepared for Friday's test or session of Quizlet Live, or even monthly to get a sense of who maybe needs more encouragement to use Quizlet effectively or individual attention in class. You can share this data with staff or parents to encourage more participation at home, or with your class to reward those for more activity or highest scores. Based on what concepts everyone seems to be struggling with, you can also decide to spend more in-class time on focused review on those terms. You can even use your understanding of more difficult terms to make sure your tests have a mix of easier and harder questions. So as I mentioned, class progress is a feature of our Quizlet Teacher upgrade, which is $34.99 for 1 year. While all of Quizlet's core components are available with a free account, an upgrade gives you a lot of cool bells and whistles around powerful content creation and customization. For example, you get the ability to upload your own images. With a free account, you do get access to our free image gallery, but if you're teaching something very specific, it's possible that you might need to use your own images. You can also record your own audio, which is really helpful if our text-to-speech audio provided by Quizlet doesn't cover the language you're teaching. It allows your students to still benefit from the audio features of Quizlet while they're studying. So as they're studying, they will click on the words and hear your audio playing as they're going through the modes. And then ads won't appear on your account or the sets you've created, which means students studying your content won't see ads, which is great. You also get unlimited classes, and that might be helpful if you're kind of doing more of an approach where you have a class one-on-one with a student, that sort of thing. And you also get things like teacher-created content search, which is helpful for finding really great sets, as well as Quizlet Live customization options and prioritized support from our support team. It's worth noting that we give discounts of 20 to 25% for purchases of multiple upgrades as well. So if your department or school is interested in upgrading, that's a great way to do so at a special price. Okay, so now we're at the end of our presentation. We'll go ahead into the Q&A session. And it looks like we have some good questions already. Is that right? Yep. Okay, so who wants to start with the first question?
I can take it.
Okay, great.
Hi, this is Olivia.
So this question says, must students have their own accounts?
That depends. Students don't necessarily need accounts on Quizlet in order to study if the sets you add to your class are public. If you've made your sets private and visible only to class members, in that case, students would need to create their own accounts and join your class in order to study. But if you're comfortable having public sets, then no, your students don't need to sign up.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that the class progress feature really works best when students are members of your classes. So I would say if you're investing in a Quizlet Teacher upgrade for the class progress feature, make sure that your students do create their own free accounts and join your class as members so that you really get the full benefit of that feature. Okay, another question, how do I delete members in a class? So that's a great question. Olivia, do you want to tackle that?
Sure. So the way that you can do this, and if you have Quizlet up and a class page open, it might be helpful to follow along. You can go to your members tab, and then next to each student's username, you'll see a little more menu with 3 dots. You can click on that, and I believe the text says remove, and that's how you can remove a student from a class.
Yep, and I'm going to go ahead and actually switch to my screen so that you can kind of see that in action. So now I'm on my class page. Remember, on the left-hand side, this is my teacher account. And if I want to remove a member, I go to the Members tab versus the Sets tab. And I can go ahead and do that in the More icon, just right there. Super easy. Okay, so next.
Yeah, so this next question says, can I link Quizlet and specific sets to Google Classroom pages? Yes, you can. The best way to do this, and I don't think that we have a tab up that we can use, but we have a function called embed. And what that lets you do is put a set in a specific study mode into a different website. We write the HTML code for that. So what you can do, as Amalia is showing, go to a set page, click on the More icon, select Embed, and then you can copy this HTML into your Google Classroom page, or if you use an LMS, you can put it there, and then your students will be able to actually study the set you've embedded in that particular mode right on your class website. So this is a great option if, for example, you put lessons that you want your students to walk through on their own during class on Google Classroom or an LMS. They can actually study Quizlet sets at various points through that lesson.
Yep, that's a great point. Good question. Okay.
Hi, this is Laura. I'm another member of the Quizlet team. We also have a more formal Google Classroom integration that allows you with one click to share directly from Quizlet into Google Classroom. And so if you navigate to the share icon at the top of the study set, you'll see an option to share on Google Classroom, and you can either post as an assignment or as an announcement. So that's also, if you just want to send a specific link, you can do that, and that's an easy way to do that without having to leave the sort of the Quizlet website.
Yep, great point. And this also gives us a good chance to highlight different sharing features. So it's great to share sets in a class, but also if you're trying to share a set one-off, you can type in an email to share, you can copy and paste a link into anything, share on Google Classroom, share on Facebook, share on Twitter, however you communicate with your students best. Oops. Okay. Didn't mean to click that. Okay. So how do you upload images? Okay, so this is a little beyond the topic we're going to talk about today, but it's super okay to go through that. If I go into a set that I've created, so let's go back to my class. This is a set I have created. I can edit it, and of course I can do this as I'm creating a set as well. This page is kind of the same. You can see here I've added this image, and if I wanted to add a different image or change the image, I'd click into this. And so this is an example of our free gallery feature, and it automatically kind of takes the term that you've typed in. So in this case, it's the French for dolphin, and it will show you user-contributed images for that term. And of course, if I'm not finding what I need, I can actually change my search term and try again. Or I can upload my own images if I have an upgraded teacher account. So it's really easy to add images. You can upload from your desktop. You can even drag and drop, which kind of saves you time. But there's a lot of cool options for that. And of course, it makes your set a little bit more engaging, a little bit more fun. Or if you wanted to just have a term and an image versus a term and a definition, you can do that as well.
Okay, this question says, where is the progress report feature located when using a teacher account? So we'll have Amalia go back to the set page.
Or my classes.
Yeah, or on her,
both ways.
Yeah, either way. So if you're on your class page, there are two different ways that you can get to class progress. One is to click the quick link we discussed in the presentation a bit ago. This is a testing class that Amalia has created, so there's not much study activity, but you remember back to the screenshots we included, we showed the different mode icons, and you can differentiate between students' activity there. And then if you're already on a set page, you can click the class progress icon, and we'll be taken to that same page.
And yeah, and then so that's the first kind of half of the feature, which is focusing more on student study activity. But actually the other half of class progress, which is more about terms that students, are getting wrong or getting right most of the time, that's actually on the set page. So let's see if we have this here as well. If I go back to set, I should be able to see how my students are doing. Okay, so this is a bad example, but yeah, if you remember the screenshots in our presentation, it will show up here, and you can actually toggle this on or off, students original alphabetical, and this gives you a view of your terms and definitions with more of that data. Can you create tests? So that's a great question. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Olivia?
Sure, yes. So test mode on Quizlet actually automatically generates quizzes and tests for you as a teacher based on the terms and definitions or questions and answers you put in your set. So if you go to a set page and click on the test icon, we will auto-generate a test for you, and then if you want to customize it, you click the options button. You can adjust the number of questions, and you can choose if you want your students or yourself to see images or not, and adjust the question types, and then auto-generate another test. And then from here, you can actually choose to print out your test, either one copy or multiple copies for your students to take as an actual quiz in class. Alternatively, if you're having your students use test mode more just to quiz themselves, they can all go to test mode for a particular set page on their own, and test mode always generates a randomized test, so each student will see a different version of the test. So if Amalia clicks on test mode for this set, she'll see a different group of questions than I would or than Laura would, so we each have a different test.
Yep, that's right. And to regenerate this again and again, it's super easy. You would just do a new test or check answers. You could even refresh the page, that sort of thing. And you can regenerate your test for a different version. So as a teacher, if you want to create 3 different versions to hand out in class, super easy to do.
This question says, I don't have to fill in the English, I can just have an image. Yes, that's correct. As long as you have text on one side of your flashcards, you can simply put an image on the other side if what you want your students to do is study in flashcards mode, for example, and have to say out loud or think to themselves what the matching French or English French term is.
Okay, let's see other questions. Do you have a handout that you can email if we ask? So yeah, we are actually currently working on a bunch of different resources for teachers, including webinars, presentation templates, and handouts. And I think that we almost have ready to go a presentation template that we will upload to the site very soon, and then also a handout that goes with that. So if you're someone who's either learning about classes and class progress, or actually, leading a PD session for the rest of your colleagues on classes or class progress, that should be really easy to do with our resources. And maybe this is a good time to show the Help Center where these resources live. So as you can see on my teacher account, I'm just going to my username on the upper right. I'm choosing the Help Center. And this is an easy way to get to our Help Center with a ton of help articles and tutorials around what you can do on Quizlet. So if I'm going to the For Teachers section, I just go to this page, Teacher Resources and Professional Development. And you can see we have a couple of videos, we have some handouts, we have a presentation template. So when we do add more information on classes and class progress, it will live here. And I would very, very much advise going to this page and checking out other things we have if you're planning on doing any sort of PD presentation to other teachers.
Yeah, and there's also the Help Center is great if you're just looking for a refresher on how certain study modes work or how to set up a test, things like that. Help Center articles provide really clear, concise, step-by-step instructions on how to do pretty much anything on Quizlet.
Yep, and you can even search and kind of find them quickly, embedding Quizlet sets into another website. So everything's there for you to peruse at your own leisure. Okay, so let's see. If students make their own set of cards, is there a progress report available that way, or do students have to directly use the set I created in order for me to see their progress? This is another great question. This is a perfect opportunity to use the class option to enable your students to add sets. If your students create study materials, study sets, and add them to your class, then study them, you will be able to see class progress. It's also an awesome way to encourage students to collaborate and share notes and material with each other so that one person can create a set and all their classmates can study it, and you as the teacher can then see how well they're all doing with that material. Yep. Yeah, so if someone else's set is added to your class, again, you can view class progress on it as long as your students are studying it.
Yes, so this question is that available in the German version too? We have the entire Quizlet website translated into German, so if you are living in Germany or you go to your settings page and change your locale to specify that you are speaking German, you'll then see the site in German, and all these features are available there as well.
You can also at any time change your language option in the footer. Under the language section, you'll see the options we have available, and again, this will change everything on the site into the language of choice. It won't, however, change your set into that language. You can kind of think of your study sets as separate beings from the site, and they will stay in whatever language you actually created them in or found them in. And actually here, I've gone to a set finally with some great progress on it. So again, we're on the set page. This is another aspect of class progress. I'm sorting by students. And you can see if I sort by original, this is kind of just, a really clear showing of what's in the set. But if I go to students, I can actually see, words that students are missing a lot when they're using the study modes versus rarely missed, all the way to never missed. So again, this can help me guide my in-class time and allow us to focus on the concepts or the terms that are really, proving to be difficult. And focus on those more.
We just saw an update to Michael's question, which is when will this content be translated into German in our Help Center? And the answer to that is hopefully very soon. We have about 30 Help Center articles that are with our German translation team now and will be added to our German Help Center as they're ready.
Great.
Yes, you can import a list into Quizlet. This is a great option if you have worksheets saved on your computer in Microsoft Word or perhaps in a Google Doc. And so what you do in order to import is go to the Create Set page, select Import, and then just copy and paste your questions and answers, terms and definitions. It'll display here, and then you can make sure everything is formatted properly. Once you have pasted text into this field, into this text box, you can hit the import button, and then you will see all that text populate on the Create Set page. Skim it quickly, review, hit the Create button, and that will be saved. It's a super quick, efficient, easy way to get material you already have saved somewhere onto Quizlet to share with your students there.
Definitely. And again, even if you've imported material, you can actually edit it after that. So if this is all populated, I can still go in, I can remove terms, I can add images, I can change things. It's super easy to customize it after importing material. So this question is, can you combine lists into Quizlet Live for a multi-unit list review? This is also a great question, and we can easily highlight this feature. It's called Combine. So you can go into any set, and again, I'm back on the set page, and I'm looking at the toolbar under the set title, and under More, you'll see an option to combine. And so this takes me to a page with all of my sets. If I want to combine sets that I haven't created, maybe sets that are in my folders or in my classes, I can do that as well. So if I go into my classes, that changes. I already have one selected. If I had a quiz on animals and food on Friday, I could select that. And then what I can do is either use a certain mode, but as a teacher, I probably just want to create a new set. I would press go. And now I have a set of all of those terms combined. And again, I can edit the set further here. I can delete terms. I can change images. I can record audio if I have an upgraded account. I can change the title. So maybe we'd want to say something like for Friday's quiz, something like that. And then I would create it. And here it is. And you can use that easily in Quizlet Live by just selecting the Live button. Okay, so the question is, so to take advantage of all the student Quizlet tools, students must create their own accounts. So this is kind of like a question we started to answer before, but it's great to go over again. Essentially, students without accounts will be able to study your material. And if that's all you want them to do, that's a totally fine way to have them use Quizlet. But if they sign up for their own free account, they have access to creating their own content. So, that enables them to use Quizlet outside of your classes, actually use it for their own studying and other subjects, and then, from year to year. And then they also have access to tracking their own progress. So that's kind of cool. Maybe I should show that. So beyond class progress, which is kind of this teacher feature, as a student, I'm also able to monitor my own progress on a set, which can be really encouraging and motivating, and, it's just helpful.
Yep, and we also show to individual students below the study mode icons their most recent score from a month, so how quickly they finished match, how they did on test, and then for learn and spell, you can see if you're not finished with your most recent study session, how far through it you are. So you can see it and say, ooh, I only have 25% of this set left to go, and then I'll master it, and you can go in and know exactly how much you have left.
Yep. Okay. So we're coming to the end of our presentation, actually there's one more good question here about the distinction between folders and classes, and that's a really good question, so let's see if I can get this page to load. Essentially, classes are a great way to organize content for a group of people, a specific group of people. So obviously in this case, I'm a teacher, I'm organizing my sets for everyone in my French 1 class, whereas folders are just kind of a way to organize them for myself. So, for example, you can see in this account, I have these sorts of sets all organized by, maybe I have multiple periods of French, but I just kind of want one folder, all of my French sets. And as I'm adding French sets to all of my classes, I can actually select to add them from my folder. So again, it just kind of streamlines the process and gives you an extra kind of layer of organization. There's other kind of capabilities of folders where someone can bookmark them. So again, if you're sharing content with colleagues, maybe you want to share all of your French sets with your colleagues, you can send them the link to your folder and they can bookmark that folder so they always have easy access to it without going through the class creation process. Another benefit of folders is that you can create unlimited folders. So again, it just really helps with overall organization of your content. Okay, so one more question that says, will this webinar be available for us to refer back to later if we have questions? That's a great question. We are recording this webinar, so after the event, I think probably tomorrow we'll be emailing the recording to you, and you can watch it, you can share it. Please do share it with colleagues that are interested in learning about classes and class progress. And then, of course, for the questions that we did not get to answer today, we'll make sure to go through those and answer those individually by email, and follow up with you if you're having other sorts of confusion. So that's about all that we have time for today. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. Again, after the webinar, you'll see a survey. Thanks in advance for completing that. And to see more of our webinars, make sure to follow our blog, our Facebook page, and our Twitter. We'll make all announcements for new webinars and new events for Quizlet, new resources we're creating for teachers. That will all be announced there. All right, thanks so much, guys.